It's them and the Panthers. The Falcons, I just don't trust them. Bruce Irvin signed with the Falcons, and there's been a lot of Bruce Irvin slander, especially from Raider Nation, from me, from Pete, from Terry Biggs, from Full Press Coverage. Everybody shot on Bruce Irvin because he was a captain, got paid $8 million for the Raiders. They trade Khalil Mack, and then they're like, "Oh shit, Bruce Irvin's our number one pass rusher. We might have made a mistake because he's making $8.5 million." But honestly, if you're not trading Khalil Mack, he probably would have like 10 sacks right now because he's a number two rusher and builds well off others. But he's the kind of perfect defensive end for Atlanta because they already have Tack McKinley. I think they they have guys who are kind of lean, smaller defensive ends, fast, can bend the edge. And as long as he shows more effort than he did in Oakland, he'll be fine. He pulled some Dante Hall type shit. Um, not Dante, yeah, D'Angelo Hall, my bad. But it's gonna be interesting to see how, because it's amazing. Like the Saints defense is great. They have the potential to be great. They can play great. Sometimes they give up big points in yardage, but they're relatively good. Eli Apple, he hangs in there. P.J. Williams, he hangs in there in the slot. He'll make plays. Their linebackers are pretty athletic. Their D-line, Cam Jordan is a monster. Always has been since Cal. Sheldon Rankin's doing his thing. When they get Marcus Davenport back from injury in like a month, man, the Saints are going to be a problem when they get to the playoffs because they're going to eventually start resting guys. You got Teddy Bridgewater as your backup QB. Taysom Hill is a wild card. He's so athletic and just tenacious. And people forget he rushed for over 1,000 yards 1 year at BYU and shitted on. He pretty much beat Texas by himself. But the Saints are rolling, doing everything right, winning games. Sean Payton has the recipe to beat a team like the Rams, and he's gonna mentally outduel Sean McVay. And I really think the Rams should have forced the ball to Brandon Cooks more. But hey, that's just me. You can't. I mean, you want to rely on Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp all you want, but just look at their 40 times. Just remember, they're not game-breaking receivers. Brandon Cooks is a game-breaking receiver with game-breaking speed and can run every route and be anywhere. And you should be forcing the ball to him and not giving Robert Woods a speed sweep when you have like the fastest dude on your team who should be doing the speed sweep in Brandon Cooks. I don't understand why he doesn't get more of those speed sweep reps, but whatever. Rams really have a problem with their pass coverage. Marcus Peters has to grow up and be a more disciplined corner, or else it's gonna look bad for him. Because I think his last pick was after the Seattle game, and Seattle almost beat him. So yeah, issues. The Packers lost 31-17 to the Patriots. Man, I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers. Like he finally has a new crop of receivers that he's growing with, and they're playing great. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is playing amazing this year, averaging 21 yards a catch. I still say the Raiders should have drafted him and Equinemius St. Brown, but I'm sorry, the Raiders aren't. They're tanking and they're just operating from a place of stupidity and ego. Shout out to John Gruden. When I think about what the Packers are doing on defense, they're young, but man, they need to fix their linebacking core. Their safety issues, like they just got diced up. Their linebackers are the weakness of their team. Yes, Clay Matthews can rush the passer, Nick Perry, but man, Blake Martinez since Stanford just is a coverage liability at times. Their rookie Oren Burks out of Vanderbilt, he can only do so much. He's athletic, but he's not like a game changer of a linebacker. And I feel like they're probably going to lean towards that in the draft next year. Wouldn't be surprised if they end up trading up and snagging Devin White. If Devin White fell to the Packers out of LSU, just mark them in the NFC title game with the Saints. Because that's all they're missing is a playmaking, sideline-to-sideline middle linebacker for Green Bay. Their D-line's good. Their pass rushing is good. Their corners are young, but they're studs. Jair Alexander, Kevin King, Josh Jackson, studs. You got Brashawn Breeland, kind of just giving up catches or whatever. But that's 4 good corners. And you got Tremont Williams playing safety. Kentrell Bryce, who got ejected on doing some dumb shit. And then you got Josh Jones, who will fit in somewhere at one of the safety spots. When it just comes down to it, McCarthy might get fired, but they got to do something. Like, they got to really solidify this defense next year. And I'm only looking to next year because they got exposed against the Patriots. They keep getting exposed against the Vikings. Like, in the Bears, too, there are certain teams in the playoffs that are going to go at those corners, go at those safeties, those linebackers, and that's where the Packers lose. If you don't, it's one thing if you have all the players that you need and shit just don't go right, or you don't have the players. But the Packers have enough talent, but they're still lacking in those areas. Like the Vikings, if they had Kirk Cousins last year and not Case Keenum, I think they would have been in the Super Bowl. They are quarterback away. But now they got injuries and a bunch of other stuff. It's an issue. So, I just want to touch on something real quick. Lamar Miller. The Ravens at one point had the best defense in the league, looking like they were going to do something. But they, after that loss to the Steelers, they go down to 4-5. I really think they're out of it. I think they're out of it now. Flacco isn't really doing much. That offense is predictable. They really should look to Lamar Jackson to see what they have, see how far he's come, see what he can do, and just really use Flacco as a bridge quarterback. You're already paying him a shit ton of money. You might as well see what Lamar can do. All the other quarterbacks are out there. Josh Rosen, Baker Mayfield, all these other cats. The Ravens got to know, like, even if you get into the playoffs, nobody's scared of Willie Snead, John Brown, and Mike Crabtree. Or your 2 rookie tight ends, Mark Andrew and Hayden Hurst. Shout out to rookie offensive tackle Jamal Brown Jr. Playing his ass off, even though he ran a still 40 time. No, Orlando Brown Jr., my bad, I'm sorry. He's playing his ass off. But, yeah. Terrell Suggs getting older. He's the first ballot Hall of Famer, but they got Matt Judon. They got Bowser. They got Tim Williams. They got a bunch of complimentary pass rushers. They got Eric Weddle, Tony Jefferson, Jimmy Smith. Decent corners. Pretty good defense. But they got to see what Lamar Jackson's going to do, because I think 1 or 2 more losses, 6 losses is the cap for AFC teams if you want to make the wild card. They already have 5 losses. Harbaugh's job might be in danger. I don't think so. I think he's earned enough. He's consistently competitive, but you just gotta look like, Flacco played like shit and cost him a lot of time. But I think you got to see what Lamar Jackson has. Especially if you lose 1 or 2 more games, it's over. You're not making the playoffs at 9-7. Sorry, somebody's probably has a tiebreaker over you. I just don't see it happening. Okay, so Frank Gore, Miami Dolphins running back, is 253 scrimmage yards away from passing LaDainian Tomlinson for 5th all-time on the all-time list. Now, Pete swears up and down that Frank Gore's not a Hall of Famer, but he also thinks Earl Campbell is better than Adrian Peterson. So, Pete has some questionable beliefs. So there you go. Frank Gore's first ballot Hall of Famer, and I think he's better than Curtis Martin. He's arguably was one of the most consistent running backs in NFL history for like 7 or 8 seasons. Constant 1,100, 1,200 yard seasons. Was the backbone of those Niners offenses that, made it to the Super Bowl and everything. So I would definitely say that he has to go in. Like a guy like that, him, Edgerrin James, they got to go in. Because Frank Gore was a 3rd round pick out of Miami. People didn't really expect him to do much. You got to give that man credit. He got heart, and he's played his ass off. Even on a somewhat shitty Miami team. Now, I just want to say rest in peace to Wally Triplett. Died at 92 years old. Former Detroit Lions player and former Penn State great. Sorry, I'm like really congested. This shit is bad. So with Triplett, he played running back. He was the first African American to be drafted and play in the NFL. He was drafted in the 19th round of the 1949 NFL draft. He was the third African American player drafted that year, but he was the first to take the field. As a running back and return specialist, he had an 80-yard return against Green Bay as a rookie and set the team record for the longest run from scrimmage at the time. George Taliaferro died earlier this year at 91. He was the first drafted. He was the first African American drafted. Triplett's season, his second season, was cut short after he set the NFL mark of 294 kick return yards in a game against the LA Rams. That's there for 44 years and his third all time. And he had a 73.5 yard average per return. That game, that's still the greatest average. For that game, 294 return yards, and he averaged 73.5 yards per return. That's fucking crazy. You can't even do that in a video game. You could, but it's insanely hard. He actually spent part of that season, most of that season, in the Korean War. He was drafted into the Army's 594th Field Artillery Battalion. He served 2 years and finished his career with the Chicago Cardinals from 1952 to 53. Amazing trailblazer. Kudos to that man. Kudos to him and his legacy. Okay. Time for some college football news. Gotta be with the shits. Shit, that was the wrong one. Class is in session. Alright, so LSU got bitch slapped by Alabama, third ranked team in the country. LSU got bitch slapped. And of course they played Mo Bamba in Death Valley in the Tiger Stadium. That shit was lit. I was hyped. I was really hyped. But they got smacked like 29-0 by Alabama. At this point, I don't see who Alabama's really going to lose to except Clemson. And that's like lucky. That's like the only team really man-to-man that can stand with them because they have like 4 first-round picks on their defensive line. It's insane. So I'm just going to say Clemson, Alabama, and everybody else. Michigan is like ranked 4th. I don't really believe in Michigan. I think they'll find a way to lose to Ohio State. When it comes down to it, it's just they have to restructure. I think they're going to have to go to an 18 playoff because you can't keep finding reasons to justify why UCF shouldn't. It goes back to how they used to do Boise State and TCU, but mainly Boise State because they went on long-ass winning streaks. And they would have been in the national title game had Kyle Brotzman not missed that kick at Nevada, even though technically it looked like he made it, but Nevada's sketchy. And that Colin Kaepernick was the quarterback of that team, by the way. So, when it comes down to UCF, I think they're ranked like 12th. Their kind of ranking has fluctuated. But they really haven't. I think they've played like one team with a winning record all season. And yeah, they look great. They look fantastic when they play. And you know, like in a one-game playoff, they could beat some of these teams. They could hang with them. But their strength of schedule is trash. And they're really getting killed for it. And it's kind of not fair. But I just don't see them really getting anywhere near the top 6. Like, LSU lost. They fell all the way down to 22. Which honestly is where they should probably be. But somehow, fucking Mississippi. I need to know how who is paying off the AP ranking system or whoever, because Mississippi just has been ranked